Late on the evening of 21 June, the President of the United States announced that an aerial operation against Iran's nuclear infrastructure had concluded. The statement, delivered on a personal social media channel rather than through traditional outlets, declared that strikes on Fordow, Natanz and Isfahan had achieved their objectives. While official casualty figures were withheld, defense officials in Washington characterized the mission as surgical and limited to atomic assets. Fordow has long been regarded as the most elusive element of Iran's program. The enrichment plant lies roughly 30 kilometers south of the city of Qom, buried beneath a natural ceiling of rock and soil equivalent to a 30-story building. 4 tunnel mouths, reinforced by armored blast doors, are guarded without pause by units of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. On the surface, a Russian-built S-300 air defense battery forms the last ring of protection. Penetrating such depth required the use of a massive ordnance penetrator designated GBU-57. The weapon measures nearly 6 meters from nose to tail, weighs close to 14 tons, and carries more than 2 tons of high explosive. Its hardened casing is engineered to remain intact after slicing through over 60 meters of reinforced concrete. An electronic delay fuse ensures detonation at the deepest attainable point. In practice, engineers concede that a single penetration may be insufficient. Multiple impacts on the same coordinate improve the odds of collapse. To deliver those weapons, B-2 Spirit stealth aircraft lifted off from Whiteman Air Force Base in the American Midwest, crossed the Atlantic and threaded international air routes to minimize radar exposure. Military sources later confirmed that multiple bombers released sequential rounds on identical impact points, opening cavities through which follow-up munitions could travel. An independent defense scholar in Washington described the tactic as cold, mathematical work. The same analyst noted that true damage assessments may require ground teams or unmanned probes to enter the blast shafts, an option still under discussion. Fordow was not the only focus of the overnight sorties. In Iran's arid interior, the sprawling Natanz complex and the uranium conversion center at Isfahan also absorbed heavy strikes. Observers with access to commercial satellite imagery reported collapsed roofs, scorched ventilation stacks and twisted gantries where centrifuge halls once stood. Natanz had already suffered sabotage in earlier years, including cyber intrusions and suspected clandestine explosions. Those incidents crippled power supplies and distorted thousands of aluminium centrifuges. The latest bombardment appears to have deepened the damage, leaving large sections without electricity and destroying outdoor workstations devoted to cascade maintenance. Even before the raid, officials of the International Atomic Energy Agency expressed concern over several kilograms of highly enriched material that had vanished from sealed storage. Agency inspectors documented enrichment levels exceeding 83% at Fordow, close to weapons grade, but routine access was suspended amid rising regional tension. With monitoring cameras disabled and tamper seals broken, the whereabouts of fissile stock sufficient for roughly 10 warheads remain unknown. Inside the White House, debate over the strike consumed nearly 2 full days. Advisors presented 3 broad paths: stand down and pursue talks, conduct covert sabotage, or launch a limited kinetic blow aimed strictly at enrichment targets. According to senior aides, the president asked repeatedly whether concrete thickness and rock density could truly be overcome. Computer simulations illustrated a 2-munition sequence with impact errors kept below 1 meter. That assurance, combined with intelligence suggesting Iran was accelerating production of 20% and 60% enriched uranium, tipped the balance toward action. The formal execute order was signed on 17 June but held in abeyance to monitor diplomatic channels. Iranian leadership had anticipated a potential strike. 2 days before the operation, the supreme leader pledged irreversible consequences should American forces intervene. The defense minister went further, claiming that missile coordinates for 10 United States installations across the Gulf had already been programmed. In the hours after the bombers released their payloads, units of the Revolutionary Guard entered the highest state of alert. Anti-ship ballistic missiles known as Hormas were wheeled into firing position along the Persian Gulf coastline. Naval fast attack craft began laying dummy mines to test readiness drills. Of particular concern to nuclear safety experts is the heavy water reactor at Iraq. Although not targeted in the current mission, analysts warned that a direct hit on its cooling network could trigger core meltdown and disperse radioactive dust for tens of millennia. Iran's emergency response capability, they add, remains modest compared with the vast mobilization deployed by the Soviet Union at Chernobyl. Even without a reactor breach, damage to fuel plate workshops in Isfahan has rendered precision instruments inoperable. Strategists in Washington and Tehran alike understand that the Strait of Hormuz carries nearly one-fifth of the world's daily crude oil trade. Any retaliatory move that obstructs the narrow channel, whether through mines, disabled tankers or missile salvos, would send energy prices soaring and could force maritime insurers to suspend coverage. Pentagon planners have sketched 3 likely reprisal scenarios: short-range missile volleys against regional bases, covert attacks on diplomatic compounds, and a partial closure of shipping lanes. Meanwhile, Tehran's counterintelligence units are investigating a string of unexplained deaths among scientific personnel. Iranian officials suspect foreign intelligence services, though no evidence has been made public. In the ruins of centrifuge halls, engineers search for salvageable drawings to restart production. International monitors worry that improvised facilities could move underground beyond satellite reach. By sunrise on 22 June, satellite photographs showed 20 missile launchers standing in revetments outside an undisclosed Iranian site. Whether those launchers will be fired or held as bargaining chips remains uncertain. Diplomatic envoys from European capitals are urging restraint, while energy markets gauge risk in real time. The raid has not ended Iran's nuclear ambitions, nor has it guaranteed long-term security for Washington's partners. It has, however, demonstrated that no vault of concrete and granite is immune to modern precision ordnance. The immediate question is whether both capitals will treat the night's violence as a closing act or merely the first in a new series, one that could redraw the strategic map of the Middle East and unsettle global energy flows for years to come.